Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. As many of you know, I've done a few videos about food fatigue. And this here, I believe, is the best way to combat food fatigue. Is to have a large selection of different spices that you like and use on a regular basis. That way, if they ever become unavailable, you can have them on hand. On this video, I'm going to show you guys what I have, just to give you some ideas in case you don't use that spice, and how I store some of these spices for long-term storage in my prepper pantry. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining in today and spending a little bit of time here. So what I'm going to start off with first is what I feel is the most important, what people like to call a spice. I guess you can call it a spice because you can use it to spice up the flavor in your food. But really, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but salt's just a mineral that's pulled out of the ground and or derived from seawater. So it's really just a mineral. It's not really a spice that has different, things putting it together to make it a spice. But we do use it to spice up the flavor of our food. So I included it here in our spice category, and I feel it's the most important one. Why? Because this is the only spice that you will see me show you that we actually need in order to live. As you can see here, I've got a few different types of salt. All right, I've got just sea salt that's coarse that you can grind on your food. I've got Himalayan pink salt, and I've got sea salt, but it's fine already, that you can use for cooking or to put in your food. I usually use this one for cooking, and like whenever I make a steak or something that I want the salt to be a little more coarse, I use this one. But there's also different types of salt, ladies and gentlemen. Like, for example, you may want to be storing some of this canning and pickling salt. Now, to show you how easy it is to store salt, I've had this for a long time, for a couple of years actually. And you can see in there the salt is still, loose in there. It's not like a big block or anything like that, but I have kept the store in an area that is, not humid and has good air circulation. Now, if you have like a 25-pound bag of salt, it's very easy to store it. Number one, you could probably just leave it in the bag. I wouldn't recommend that though, in case some rodents, or bugs get into it. But what I usually do when I buy a 25-pound bag is I transfer it to a plastic container, either a 2-liter bottle, or you can also transfer it into quart mason jars or half-gallon mason jars for long-term storage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to the variety of spices that I have now. And as you can see here, I'm going to start the lineup with these Weber spices. Now, I picked these up when there used to be a Sam's Club here. And the Costco that I go to now that replaced the Sam's Club doesn't sell these, or at least I haven't seen them. And this is a great variety of spices. They're for different things, right? And they're actually really good. But let me tell you which one is my very favorite. And if you have a chance or an opportunity to try this, try it because it is an outstanding spice. And it's called Kickin' Chicken. And I'm not sponsored by them, but I would be willing to be sponsored by them because this is an awesome spice. And it works on a lot more than just chicken. All right, so it has a little bit, just a tiny bit amount of heat, but it's not, spicy. And it is an outstanding spice for cooking chicken in almost any way. All right. Victor likes to put a little bit of this whenever he eats ramen. He puts a little bit of this. I caught him and I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Have you ever tried this, Dad? This is delicious with ramen." I'm like, "All right, if you say so." But as you can see, they come in different flavors. This is your roasted garlic and herb gourmet burger. If you want to use it on burgers, Kickin' Chicken, absolutely my favorite. This savory smokehouse seasoning is pretty good for barbecuing. And this carne asada, I'm not going to say it's really, really good. It's okay. My blend of spices that I use whenever I make carne asada, I think it's a little bit better than this. But this is not bad to have in a pinch. If you don't have time to make up your own stuff, you just put it on there and go with it. All right, so it's pretty good products. And I've had these a while, stored it in their original containers. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. I think they store really well for a long time on their own. However, I do have a few quart jars of this filled up and dry canned for long-term storage in my prepper pantry. You knew this was coming. This is my very favorite spice. You know, if I had two spices to pick to store for long term and I only had two and that was it would be salt and this, even though this does have a little bit of salt in its ingredients. Now, let me go ahead and explain adobo to you really quick for those of you that have never seen this before. It's just a blend of very simple spices. It doesn't have MSM in it. No monosodium glutamate in it, which a lot of people are afraid of, which is fine. All right, it's your choice what you put in your body. However, the blend of spices in here, I'm going to show you really quick. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I'll tell you what it is. It's salt, granulated garlic. It's got some tricalcium phosphate to prevent caking. It has oregano, black pepper, and turmeric. That's it. Those are the only spices in here, or the only blend of spices in here. The thing is, I've never been able to match their ratio of spices, and to me, I think this is the perfect spice to have because it adds such good flavor to any kind of meats or any kind of food that you're cooking, be it fish, be it beef, be it chicken, be it pork. It just adds great flavor to it, and it's very well balanced. Now, being that this is my favorite spice, I've stored it. This one was done in 18. I've stored this one in 2018, and as you can see, I dry canned it. As you can see, it's still nice and dry and powdery inside. You can see there's an oxygen absorber, actually 2 oxygen absorbers in there. And I have several of these quart jars full of adobo. I see this lasting a very long time. I don't see it going bad because my theory is this. It's inside a glass jar that's not penetrable. Well, you know, air can't get inside of it. It's dry inside. Or actually, yeah, it's dry inside. You can tell that by how powdery it still is. It's not caked up or anything. It's been put away for 2 years already. I did this in 2018, and it's still in perfect condition. So as far as I'm concerned, this will pretty much last forever without losing any of its properties because it's already a dried ingredient. All of the spices in there are completely dry. So I think this is a great spice to store. If you've never tried this, give it a try. It's an outstanding spice, and you should find it in like your Hispanic section of your supermarket. Right, next, we've got some garlic. All right, just powdered garlic, and some black pepper, ground black pepper. Just your basic stuff. You add these two to your salt, and that's gonna pretty much set you up pretty good for spices if that's all you can afford to get or to store for long term. Just your basic garlic powder, and it doesn't really matter what brand it is. I get this brand because it's right next to the adobo whenever I pick it up, so I just get this. But the Costco brand is just fine. You know, the Sam's Club brand is just fine. I try to find these in bulk whenever I do, you know, buy them, like if they have them at Costco, so I try to get them in bulk. And I have several quart jars filled up with these. If you're going to store the pepper for long term, this is what I prefer. I prefer to store it in its original form as a peppercorn. With this, all you have to do is take it and grind it up and you have pepper. And however fine you grind it, depends on you. You can have a coarse grind or a fine grind, but this is a great way to store it as well. And I have several of these as well because I think pepper is also one of those seasonings that can be used for more than just cooking. Like someone the other day told me that pepper makes a pretty good blood clotting agent if you have a cut. I didn't know that, so I learned something new. All right, so there's a multi-use seasoning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I have Badia Complete Seasoning. This is almost like an adobo as well. It's just a different brand, but a different style. I think the first ingredient in this is dehydrated vegetables. But as you can see, it has salt, it has garlic, it has pepper, and all that kind of stuff in there. My favorite is adobo, but if I did not have adobo, this would definitely be the one that I turn to after adobo. And of course, sazon Goya is also something else that you can use to add flavor to your foods. I usually use this on my rice or whenever I cook a tomato-based dish that has meat in it. I'll use this, or I'll use this on my rice. Now, a lot of people don't like this because it has MSM or MSG, right? Not MSM, mainstream media. It has MSG, monosodium glutamate, but that's your preference. If you don't want to use it because it has that, that's fine. But I'm just telling you, this is one of the spices that I store. It brings a lot of variety, and you can use it on a lot of different things. I've got some bouillon cubes here, and these, someone asked me how long do they last. I can't tell you how long they last, but I feel they last a very long time for two reasons. Because one of the main ingredients in this is salt, and the other one is fat. Now, those two things on their own last a pretty good while when kept in a cool and dry place away from the sun, all right, and sealed. Now, this is my working stock. These are the cubes. These are the cubes bouillons, and I do store them. In the same manner that I store the other seasonings I showed you. If you can see right there, it's still pretty nice in there. Now, bouillon will cake up a little bit because there's a lot of fat in it. But as you can see, I've had this one dry canned since a little over a year ago. It still looks fine. I feel this will last a very long time. I hate to say years because I haven't had it for that many years, but just from my experience, I feel it will last years, because I've had some of these bouillon cubes before sitting in my pantry for years, and they were still good the last day I used them, just as good as when I used them for the first time. I've also had the bouillon powder sitting in my pantry for literally years because it took me a long time to use it, and it was just as good. So if you take the additional step of dry canning it and adding an oxygen absorber in there, I can only imagine that it will be good for a lot longer than how long it can sit in your pantry. Right. Another one that I like to show you here that a lot of people haven't seen is this Old Bay blackening seasoning. It's Old Bay with blackened seasoning, and this is really, really good. They also sell, I believe Old Bay also sells a pepper, all right, a ground pepper that's infused with Worcestershire sauce, which is really, really good. Right? I haven't been able to find that one again, but we had it once, and it actually tastes really great. Right? So this is not something that I really store long term. It's just something that I have in my pantry. Right? And we use it every once in a while, very rarely. We've probably had this little thing for about 2 years now, but we use it very rarely. But it's a very good seasoning, and it gives variety when you want it. Another thing for variety, I have this little 6 peppers seasoning from Tone's. It's very peppery because that's what it is. It's dehydrated pepper with a blend of spices in there. Right? And look at this, ladies and gentlemen, no MSG. I didn't even know that. All right, which makes sense because it's just peppers. But this is, if you have something that you want to add peppers to, or the flavor of peppers, this is pretty strong. All right, so you don't need a lot. And we've had this for a while, and we're just a little over about 2/3 of the way through it. Let's see some of our garden variety seasonings that we use here. This is just a low sodium spice, so it's a replacement for spices that have high sodium. I believe we got this from when my mother-in-law came by here. Some turmeric. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to start going through these a little bit quicker. That way I don't make this an hour-long video, right? So these are just some of our regular spices that we use on a regular basis. Dill wheat. Now I don't have to buy it anymore because I'm growing it in my arrow garden, and it's looking really, really nice. I missed this one of the Weber ones. This is Thai chili. This has a lemony taste, or a lime taste to it. Right? So this is pretty good. We don't use it that much, as you can see. We've probably gone through about 1/4 of it, 1/3 of it in a couple of years, but it's there for us whenever we want it. That's the name of the game, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to spices. For it to be there when you want something different, when you feel like you're in a rut because you've been eating the same 7 to 10 meals, you know, on a rotational basis. If you want something a little different, that's what this is there for. All right. Cayenne pepper, which we're almost out of. Another salt-free spice. This is really good. Cajun shake. Let's see. Cajun injector. Quick shake. Yeah, this is really good. I've had this before. We're about halfway done with this. Had it for a few years. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Spices, ladies and gentlemen, just for being spices, are almost always dry. Almost always very dry. So they're going to last a long time. I got some basil. I remember I got this from my old boss as a present that came in a package, like an Italian cooking package. And I still have some of it left. However, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I have beautiful basil growing out of my arrow garden. So I used that, but I still have this. We have some ground cumin. This is really good as well. All right, this is spices and herbs seasoning, and this is good for blackening too if you want to blacken. And this will pretty much work on anything. If you want to use it on fish, on chicken, on steak, you can use this. Some paprika, smoked paprika. Now this goes a very long way. So this, I imagine, will last me a very long time. We've had this for a couple of years, and I've used this several times. But smoked paprika goes a very long way. Now we have our onions. Onions is an awesome, well, I mean, it's a vegetable, but when preserved in the form of a powder or a dehydrated or freeze-dried flake, you need onions. I love onions in my food. I think it's a no-brainer as far as adding flavor to whatever you're eating. So obviously you can see we're almost done with this one, but you can get it in the dehydrated flakes. And my dehydrated flakes, I like to store for long term in the same manner that I store all my other spices for long term. It works great, and look at that. You can see I've had this since 2018, dry can, and you can see the color is still the same that it was when it went in there. A great way to store it. And ladies and gentlemen, here's a tip for you. If you don't have a lot of room and you want to maximize the space that you use for storing your spices, you get a lot more bang for your buck if you get onion powder, because you get a lot more onions in here. Look at this here. This is 20 ounces. It's the same size as this container, but in the diced, in the dehydrated kind, you can only fit 14 ounces. So you're fitting about 30% more product in this container than you are in this container. And they taste the same. It's just that this one is a powder form and this one is a dehydrated form. So that may be an option for you if you live in a small apartment. You want to have a lot of flavor stored away. You can go this way instead of this way. All right, so here's our Tex Mex. We have taco seasoning. We have chili seasoning if you want to make like a chili. And then we have chili powder, which you can use to make chili, but this is kind of like this here, and this here is like plug and play, where this is just one of the ingredients that goes into making, you know, a chili or a Tex-Mex type of. All right, let's go Italian now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what. This right here, this garlic salt, goes a very long way. This has a very strong garlic salty flavor to it, and it's not a bad thing. It also has Parmesan in it, I believe. This goes a long way. It is extremely strong. So whenever I ruined a dish once because I added too much of this and it was too strong. So this is really good to store if you want a lot of flavor packed into a small container. Outstanding product in my opinion. Another one that has a lot of flavor. It's this. We use this to make our garlic bread. All we do is put a little bit of butter, mix it in with this, put it on our bread. Comes out great. Same thing. Has a lot of flavor stored in here. So whenever you use this, go light on it. If you do use it, excellent product. We've been using these for years. A little Italian mix. This is actually a very good product. If you want to use this to make spaghetti sauce, it's great on spaghetti sauce. Obviously, you can sprinkle it on top of pizza, whatever. But it's a great spice to have, and it brings you to that next level. So you notice, ladies and gentlemen, how I showed you guys like my Hispanic spices, so I can make Hispanic meals. Now I'm showing you spices that are pretty good for making Italian dishes. Like for example, this right here, you can use this on a Hispanic dish if you want. But mainly, whenever we use this is whenever we're having, you know, spaghetti or whenever we're having pizza or something of that sort. And here we're getting to the end of my regular food spices. Montreal steak seasoning. I think it's an outstanding product. I usually will not use this if I'm cooking a really good steak. So if AP went out and bought a $15 ribeye, he won't be using this on that. He'll be using a little bit of sea salt, actually a good amount of sea salt, some black pepper, and maybe a sprinkle or two of garlic powder, and that's it. I like to use this for cuts of meat that aren't that good. This right here will take a cut of meat that's not very expensive and really give it a lot of flavor. Another thing is this ranch salad dressing. And I just wanted to show you guys this because I've had this a very long time and it's still good. I'm trying to take a look for the date. Yep, this expired in 2015. Used it not too long ago. Still dry. I've kept it in a cool place. Nothing wrong with it. Alright, so this has lasted a really long time past its expiration date / best by date. Nothing wrong with it. Right? And it's really good. You can use this for a lot of different things also, instead of just making salad dressing. One of the things I like to use this for is whenever I make like chicken wings, I'll sprinkle some of this on top of it and stir the chicken wings around in it, and it gives it a really good flavor. The last of my spices, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some cinnamon, we've got some pumpkin pie spice, and we've got some Chinese 5 spice as well. These are just spices that give, in my opinion, like sweeter foods, you know, desserts, a very good flavor. And some of these spices, hey, let me know if ground cinnamon, any of you know if ground cinnamon has any medicinal values to it. I think it does, but I'm not sure. I think I've heard that it does, but I'm not sure. If it does, please let us know. Be very interesting. And of these, the only one that I have stocked away in my prepper pantry in bulk is the cinnamon. Why? Because it's the cheapest that I can buy in bulk, and it will store for a long time, and it's something that we regularly use. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. These are all of the spices that I have. So I'm sure that there's probably a small container of something that I missed that's stuck in a corner of my pantry somewhere that I didn't see. But I would say that what you saw here today is about 99% of all the spices that I have that we use on a regular basis and that I store away for long term. So if you guys use a special spice that we may not know about, put it in the comments and let us know what you like about it and what you use it for. That way, those of us that maybe would like to give it a try, will go out and give it a try and see for ourselves whether we like it or not. And if you do like it, ladies and gentlemen, it's a win-win situation. You get to try something new that you like, that you can store away to help you combat food fatigue. If you ever have to, ladies and gentlemen, let's hope that we don't. Having said that, thank you again for joining in today. Hope you're having a great week, and I hope that your week goes well from here on. We will talk to you later, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.